What's going on, everyone? My name is Benjamin Nowak, and I want to thank each and every one of you for taking the time out of your day to watch this video. Now, this is the full interview with Mr. Mark Zona. I cut off a little bit off the front end because it's just us talking about personal stuff, but you really get to see his insights and experiences on chasing trophy bass. I'm going to have 3 more interviews coming up on my channel. Caleb Bell, Mikey Balls, and Sam Sobey as well will be coming soon. But if you guys haven't checked out that full video, I'll have it linked up here in the corner for you guys. It's really cool. Get a couple different perspectives on chasing big fish, and it's just some really unique information. So without further ado, I'm going to let you guys hop into this thing, and I'll catch you guys here in just another minute. How are you doing?
Ben, how are you, man?
Good, dude. Things are really good. How have you been?
Fantastic. I've been good. Got to wrap up the Elite Series this weekend, and I took a client out on Erie yesterday, and it was awesome. It was bumpy, but it was awesome.
Dude, that's sweet.
You want me to just start right now?
Yeah, man. So, like, talk to me about what you're looking for. You've obviously traveled the country and caught a lot of giant fish, but, like, what are you noticing or what are you looking for when you're finding these big fish?
You know, what's really weird is not to whether it's a 2,000-acre lake or a 20,000-acre lake, what I've always noticed about a trophy hunt,
yeah,
is a lot of those lakes, they don't have enormous populations of bass,
right?
You know, at least the lakes that I go to when I'm like, dude, I'm going to hunt giants.
Yeah.
You know, and the other side of that is they might have a big population, but in the way that I'm targeting and where I'm looking, I don't think there's a big population, number one, in those areas. But what I've really noticed is some of the lakes that I go to for just big ones just don't have a crazy population. And maybe that's why those big ones get so big, is because they're not in competition with a bunch of 1.5 to 3.5 pound fish.
Right, but it doesn't even have to be those 3.5 pound fish, right? Because I've fished some small lakes that have a million 4-pounders, and you won't catch one over 5.5.
Absolutely, I was at one 2 weeks ago.
Right, and it's amazing that can happen, but it kind of goes back to what you're saying, right? You need a smaller population so those giant fish can just eat as much as they want and get as big as they can.
Absolutely. And the other thing is, every one of, when I tape a Zona show, every single lake that I go to where I know I'm hunting big ones,
yeah,
they all have a primary distinct forage that helps accelerate that growth. Or I shouldn't say accelerate, I should say sustain that growth.
And the forages, there's an insane amount of it typically in very small areas, right?
Correct.
Because
there's an insane amount, and that varies, because if I'm in Texas, you know, you could be talking, you know, gizzard shad or tilapia, and up in you know, Indian River, you're talking, you know, gobies, where it's a film on the bottom. But it needs to be very, 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 very accessible to those fish, for those lakes to do that. And the other side is, you know, and then this goes into, you know, how do I target individual big ones? To me, there's 2 extremes. I target them very, very, very shallow or very, very, very deep.
Yes. So question about that really quick. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but like, those shallow fish, do you think those are resident fish that are hanging out up there and like living by themselves, right? Or are they fish that are coming shallow to just feed and hang out? Like, what's your perspective on those really shallow fish?
It's hard to say, because I think there's individual rogue fish that just want to be shallow. But I think they're also very opportunistic. I think there's a lot of really, really, really big fish that, when they get done spawning, they don't leave. They don't go do that. You know, they go out deep and then they come back. I think there's There's just really, really big lone fish that don't leave. But the other thing that I've looked at on, that I truly believe is, to me, a big bass is just like a very, very big buck.
Okay.
He does not hang with buddies. Rarely does he hang with buddies.
Yep.
He has very direct routes to feed and where his safe place being his cover's at. And I found that on smallmouth and largemouth. That they have very, very, very short paths from their what I call their safe area to where they go demolish food.
And so we talked about this a little bit prior, Mark, but like, I know you were telling me a story about where you were fishing Lake Erie out of, a very predominant area, and you caught a fish that was over 7 pounds just roaming by himself.
Yeah.
In deep water. Like,
yeah.
You almost didn't think it was a bass. So talk to me about, like, because you say there has to be a short path between eating and living, right?
Yeah.
That fish maybe just lives suspended over or underneath bait. You know what I mean?
And that's what I say. That's why I say I think there's two, at least in my mind, that how I target that stuff is those two extremes. Really, 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 really shallow, and then that really, really deep. And the thing on that is, I've only seen like once or twice in my lifetime where they're not rogues. Like, what's weird is there was one where my biggest smallmouth I've caught have been in Buffalo, and there's only been one time where those 7 to 8 pound fish were near each other.
That's insane.
Now don't get me wrong, 5 to 6s I've seen together, but when you get to that next level, they generally, in my lifetime, 9 out of 10 times, 99 out of 100 times, well, I haven't caught 100 7-pounders, but 9 out of 10 times those fish are alone. And
it could be, let's say guys are fishing where a 5 is a big one, right? Like, the 4s will hang together, and those big ones, whatever that big class is, will hang by themselves. So it's like, for example, where I fish, Lake Huron, you get those 6-pounders and the 6.5 and 7s. I think they're all lone rogue fish for the most part.
I 1,000,000% believe
But you can go catch a school of 5-pounders.
Absolutely. I totally believe that.
It just depends on what that big class fish is.
Yep. And I don't know what happens. Look, I don't know what happens with, but I directly, and I've always related big deer to big bass.
Yeah.
It's the only connection that I know, that when they get a certain size, they truly, for the most part of their life, they are done dicking around with a lower class fish.
They just outgrow their friends, man. They're like, man, I don't have any more friends alive. I just gotta go hang out by myself. Like,
what's weird is, I'm gonna tell you one other story of a big one I caught in Buffalo once.
For sure.
This is no shit. I saw him. I looked at him. He was in 3 or 4 feet of water, and to this day I did not have a scale with me. But like I said, some of my biggest ones have come on that end, but 7 to 8 pounders.
Yeah.
Dude, he was with other fish, but he was with a different species. He was literally swimming with carp. Where I was staring at 30 carp, and I'm like, that's a big bass.
That's insane, dude.
And I'm not joking. I remember there was a kid in my boat who I fish with all the time, and to this day, he's like, damn, look at all them carp. I said, dude, there is a big bass right there. And I threw, and I don't know if he outgrew his friends and then found, but that is a true story. He was absolute, and there was not another bass within a half mile of that.
That's unreal, man.
Yeah.
It might just be like that. There's not even any reason to explain that. That's unreal.
I know. I'll never forget that, though. But when I hooked him, I'm like, holy shit, look at the size of this thing.
Yeah, it's an absolute giant.
Yeah.
Huh. That's
You know,
crazy.
and the other thing that I've like I said, I think those really big ones, they don't, unless they're pelagic, man. If they're fish that are on bait, of course they move around a lot and live differently. But for the most part, typical giants have very, like I said, they have very short routes from where they enjoy living their life safely and eating. I don't think they have, you know, I don't think they don't travel massive distances, I don't believe.
Yeah, that's for sure. And yeah, that's interesting, because I'm thinking of like where I've caught some big fish, and that's interesting.
Yeah. And what's funny is I also believe, for some reason, when they die off, when they expel,
Yeah,
they get replaced a lot of times. I don't know what makes those magical areas, whether they be shallow or deep, but they get replaced. You know what I'm saying?
yeah, like other big fish come in that same area.
Correct.
There's something there that makes it more attractive to bigger fish.
That's absolutely how I feel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I just want to talk about one more thing. I don't want to take up too much more time, but let's talk about like big fish specialists, right? So Chris Zaldane, for example, goes around the country and just somehow catches giants everywhere.
Right.
Brandon Polinick does similar things. Right. What do you think makes those guys more effective at catching giants versus like?
I think number one, it's the biggest thing, it's a mindset.
Okay.
I think those guys constantly want to push that envelope. Instead of, here's the thing and Ben, it's no different. It is no different than when I go tape a Zona show. I know the ones where I got to lay up and chase 4-pounders.
Right.
And I know the ones where I could try to throw the ball in the end zone. I think a big fish specialist truly is a mindset. Number one, that, all right, I'm going out today and I'm fishing for 3 to 6 bites. Look, the natural tendency, and you know this as well as anybody, the natural tendency of a bass fisherman is, damn it, I want to go out and get some bites.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Very, very similar to a hunter is, damn it, I want to go out and see some deer.
Yes.
Very, 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 very similar. And I think where number one, a mindset, then I think instantly it goes right into the what area and how am I going to target them? You know, to me, those are the three things that those guys are just, you know, that's what they do. It's a mindset that's what they're going to target. Then it's a mindset of where, and then you get into lure selection, you know, down the line on that.
For sure. Now, last question, and I'll let you go. If you get one lure to chase a big fish this fall, what are you going to be throwing? It can have 6 hooks if you want, 5 hooks if you want.
Well, if I'm able to throw an umbrella rig, you know, an umbrella, but interestingly enough, outside of an umbrella rig, and I've thought about this in my lifetime.
Yeah.
My biggest bass have either come on a deep diving jerkbait, a swim bait, outside of an umbrella rig, a deep diving jerkbait, a swim bait, or a crankbait. And what's really, really bizarre is the baits I throw the most, a jig or a tube or a blah, 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 they do not count for my biggest bass.
Amazing, dude. Same thing with me, right? Like, my biggest fish come on some sort of moving or reaction bait where it makes those fish just trigger.
Yes.
They're almost too smart for all of those slower moving baits, and
I 1,000,000% agree with that.
So
I 1,000,000% agree with that.
Dude, I really appreciate your time, Mark. I appreciate it a ton.
No doubt, dude. I'm sorry, I'm kind of running. I'm unpacking, repacking, and getting out of here again. But
I feel you, man.
Maybe when things slow down, you and I could get out. You've been doing awesome stuff. I've been watching all summer.
No worries. Thank you so much, dude. That'd be awesome. I appreciate your time.
All right, man. Thanks, bro.
Take care, man. Bye.
See you, man.
So I hope you guys enjoyed that interview. If you did, please go down and give it a thumbs up. Also, let me know in the comment section if you like this style of video, because I can try to do more of them. Also, let me know who you would like to see me talk to, whether it's Oliver from Big Bass Dreams, my buddy Alex Rudd. There's a bunch of other YouTubers who have really interesting perspective chasing fish all across the country. It doesn't just have to be big fish. So let me know who you guys want to see me talk to. Also, go over to their pages. Let them know that I'm doing this series, so that way they know that I'm going to be coming to them, because it gets me more exposure to those dudes, and it lets them know that I'm going to be coming to them asking to do an interview. But before I go, I want to give a big shout out and thank you to Mr. Mark Zona for taking the time to shoot this little interview. It means the world to me, man. If you're watching this, thanks so much. Really, really appreciate it. But I appreciate all of you guys for watching this video. Also, give it a thumbs up if you haven't already. Hit that subscribe button down below. And as always, take care, tight lines. God bless. Your Super Fish.